Let's talk about some guidelines for shadowing in the OR. Number one, never touch anything blue. Blue areas are sterile and you don't want to contaminate anything.
Blue areas are around the operating table, the sterile instrument tables, and the sterile people, including surgeons.
Always be extremely careful to make sure that you don't touch anything blue. Number two, introduce yourself to everyone. And typically, this will include a circulating nurse, anesthesia, either a doctor or a CRNA, and a scrub technician. You may have vendor reps if outside surgical equipment is being used, but generally everybody should know who you are. You'll usually sign in to be documented as someone who is present during the surgery. Number three, no phones the first time. Read the room. If you see others on their phones, then it might be okay. But remember, the perception is always that if you're on your phone, you're not paying attention and you're not interested. So personally, I take notes on my phone and I make it very clear to the surgeon, to the other folks, that I'm taking notes and I'm not on Instagram. Although I have seen some folks on Instagram in the OR, not trying to get anybody in trouble, but it's understandable, especially if the surgery is going on for 5 or 6 hours. Number four, situational awareness. You don't want to get too close to the sterile field where the surgeons are working. If you're moving backwards or moving forwards, make sure you're not going to bump into any of the sterile people.
For instance, the surgeons are here. Some surgeons like to walk around, so if you're right behind them, standing right here, you just need to be aware if they suddenly move backwards.
For instance, I witnessed the circulating nurse accidentally rub up against the surgeon, which was a big deal. The surgery had to stop, the surgeon had to scrub out and scrub back in. So you don't want to be on the wrong side of that. And finally, moving on to etiquette. So if you're not scrubbed in, meaning you're not sterile, you can go in and out as you like. For example, if you're taking x-rays and you don't have a lead jacket, or if you're going to the bathroom, positive pressure inside the OR will blow air outwards to keep pathogens out as the door opens and closes. You want to stand in the OR if you're observing. You want to stand with your arms crossed like this, or with your hands behind your back, or at your sides. And the goal is to make yourself as small as possible and understand where your body is to avoid bumping into anything or anyone that is sterile.
Stand in the back, but you can stand as close as 1 meter behind the surgeons or as close as a couple feet away from the operating table if the surgeon and the staff allow. Standing at the end of the table here will give you one of the best views of all the action on the operating table.
And as a general rule of shadowing, but even more so in the OR, it's a high tension, high stress kind of environment. You just want to speak when you're spoken to, or if there's room for a question. Again, read the room. Some surgeons like to talk, others don't. You can always look up at the surgical whiteboard. There's usually a board in the OR telling you what the procedure is, the estimated blood loss, for instance, duration, and the names of the people in case you forget. I'll share a story. Before I went to the OR, I talked with a PA and I asked for her guidance. And this is the best advice that I've ever received. She told me, if you're curious, you can always ask the vendor reps in the room. So these are sales reps who are present during the surgery to offer support on how to use their product, and they're selling the surgeon on their new products. So they're typically not doctors, but they have seen the procedure that you're seeing for the first time. They've seen it multiple times. So they're very knowledgeable about the specific surgery and the steps involved. So they're more than happy to chat with you and tell you what's going on. And personally, I just wanted to give a shout out to the Stryker and the Integra reps who answered all my questions last week.